Welcome back, DNA Strand crew, to the newest episode of the Culture Shock here on the Dynasty DNA Podcasting Network. I'm your host, TJ Blake. You can follow me over on Twitter at FFTJBlakeDNA. And as always, for the Culture Shock, we're joined by the guy that has more culture in his socks than anyone I know. It's the one and only Big Bob Helfert. You can follow him over on Twitter at Big E Fat Bob. Cultured One, here we go. Culture Shock Week 15, first round of the Dynasty and Fantasy Football Playoffs. A lot going on, a lot of big scores, a lot to talk about it. You ready to hop in today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's just get right into it without further ado, Bob. What is topic one for the Culture Shock Week 15?
I know I beat this down like a dead horse, but like the NCAA is not going to give us enough quarterbacks to fill in all the holes that not only we had, but are opening up. Like Mahomes going down with an ACL tear today. Daniel Jones going with a Achilles tear last week. There's two more openings for places that you're going to have a quarterback. Gardner Minshew's a free agent. Like I went through Spotrac or whatever just to look up the free agent quarterbacks. Obviously, I could go through the whole list, but here's some guys I think are notable that we may want to consider getting cheap if we still can, right? Trey Lance. People thought that he was good. He just didn't. He needed time. He's with Harbaugh. Maybe they've built him up a little bit. This is a guy that should probably get another chance. Will Levis popped into my head, but even if you could get Will Levis, I don't think that's a terrible idea, but he's under contract. I still think with Tennessee, they'd actually have to trade him or cut him to make, that happen. Malik Willis was the other guy I was thinking of because he was obviously at Tennessee too. He's going to be a free agent. And when he's played in games, he's not looked terrible. Gardner Minshew, I think they may just re-sign him in Kansas City. If they can, then he's probably going to be their starter next year. Sam Howell, hopefully Sam Howell went through the Kevin O'Connell car wash, which I'm not 100% sure is as good as the McVay or Shanahan car wash, because if we haven't seen Minnesota play this week, so I'd like to think that J.J. McCarthy, people calling for J.J. McCarthy's head right now are nuts. Who are they going to start? They would have to start Brosmer, and we've seen how trash that dude is. So, McCarthy's going to be a starter next year. Mariota and Zach Wilson are the other two that are free agents that I kind of thought, and I know everybody likes Zach Wilson. I'm like, but man, the kid had talent when he was in college. He just happened to be behind a very mature offensive line at BYU. I think we've talked about this before. Everybody in BYU goes on a mission. So when they start playing, when they start to mature, they're already a year more mature than everybody else is. So they tend to look a little bit more dominant against Big 12 competition at the time, right? And then two guys that I know are still under contract besides who did I mention from Tennessee? Oh, crap. Levis. So yep. Two other guys. Yeah, Winston and Mac Jones. If either one of those two guys gets moved, those are players that I think have a chance to at least be fantasy relevant for us. And really, that's all I'm worried about, fantasy relevance. I'm not worried about whether these guys are going to be QB1s or QB2s, because you're going to just need bodies at some point, especially in our super flex leagues that are 12 teams and so on and so forth. Any thoughts, TJ?
Yeah, Bob, you've been preaching this, and that's why I love having you on this network. Lots of times you're playing chess, right? We always talk about that. Play chess when everyone else is playing checkers, because everyone's going to catch on to this from a dynasty standpoint. They already kind of are, but maybe not to the level they should be. You're absolutely correct. As far as so many quarterback needy teams, you wouldn't have thought that coming into the season this year, but between disappointing play, injuries, everything we're seeing, absolutely. I know we've preached Mac Jones a lot. We've really talked about Mac Jones quite a bit. That's a guy you said could be very fantasy relevant. Here's another one for you, Bob. Kirk Cousins, right, with the Atlanta Falcons. He is signed with the Atlanta Falcons. They have those weapons there. It's a weak division. I understand Kirk Cousins isn't going to be the savior, but like if you need a quarterback 3 and you can get him on the cheap, I mean, a third or a pair of thirds or something like that, go ahead and get Kirk Cousins because we know Michael Penix is going to be out for the majority of the season as well. Possibly, depending on how well Kirk Cousins plays, maybe he sits out the entire year, right? I'm not saying Cousins is going to be a world beater, but he is a guy you can pick up fairly cheap. He's a veteran. He has a lot of experience in the league. And I love what you're saying. Like, as a team, especially a contending team, go out and get these guys now as soon as the season's over, right? Because I say not now because quarterbacks are at a premium right now. Everyone wants them, everyone needs them, and they want to get that better play and upgrade. And the people that are selling them are going to try to make you pay. But when we get to the offseason, January, start making moves for these guys. And you mentioned it, right? I mean, we just talked about it with Mac Jones. I could say it a million times. If he gets traded to Kansas City, just think what could happen, right? Because Kansas City's in that structure of win now. I mean, they might go ahead and try something like that because Purdy's doing just fine with the 49ers. There's no fall off. You mentioned Malik Willis. That's a sneaky one. So very good, Bob, as far as bringing this up. I think that's very good to bring to everyone's attention. And look, Joe Flacco, like if you want to throw a like 4th round pick or something just in case, like he's played very respectable, right? I mean, not all these guys are going to work, but if you could get ahead of it, maybe get some of these guys go gold digging a little bit for quarterback play. I like that, Bob, and it's good thinking.
Who was the backup that went from New England to Kansas City and won like all them games? Was
Matt
it Cat,
Castle.
Cat
Yep.
Castle? I couldn't think. I couldn't. I had the name in my head, but I couldn't remember if that was correct. Like that, it's something like that's going to happen. And I think Kirk Cousins is a good call out too. Like he's clearly got the weapons there. He clearly has just got to get healthy. Like I said, with the thing with Daniel Jones is I heard that it's his plant foot. With Rodgers and Cousins, it wasn't their plant foot, so maybe they're going to be a little bit better off. But like you got it's going to take longer for these dudes to come back and be healthy than just nobody's Adrian Peterson. You know what I mean? Like there was only that one guy that had an ACL and came back like 6 months later or whatever and was basically tearing the whole league up. Yeah, I'm anybody. It's going to be, and it's like I've heard Mendoza's talking about going back to school. If he's the guy that wins the Heisman and could be potentially is probably the only guy that you're excited to draft. Like if he goes back to school, what's going to happen? Like Shuck is, and I mean, we'll get to this later, but Shuck has played himself into a starting role. I'm not upset about having Shuck as a guy to be a starting QB. And he's probably the only one off the top of my head that I was kind of like ready to throw out the door. And him and McCarthy, I think both of them are like destined to have to play next year, whether we like it or not, or the teams like it or not.
Agreed, Bob. Shuck's another one to keep an eye on. I'm with you on that. And even if they do draft a quarterback, the Saints, by some chance, right, he's going to get that opportunity early on, and we'll see what happens and where it goes. So, like the call-outs, Bob, very good info. I think that's good for a lot of Dynasty people out there to keep in the back of their mind. Use that maybe in your playbook this offseason. We'll be talking more about it during the offseason, I'm sure. But let's get into topic number 2, Bob. What are you cooking up tonight?
I think I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is my wide receiver 1. And I don't know that I think him and Jackson Smith-Njigba and Puka Nacua are like 1, 2, 3. And I think Jamar Chase is my 5. And maybe CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. Maybe it's a little tier break after 4. But like I don't know how we keep doing this and not just looking at the flashing light in front of our faces, right? Like there is clearly a talent gap between Jamar Chase and a lot of the other players. And yes, Jamar Chase still had a pretty good week this week, but not many players are nearly as consistent as Amon-Ra St. Brown. And his boom weeks are outstanding and his floor weeks are pretty dang good, right? So like you don't have disappearing acts. You have very few games where he either doesn't show up or B is hurt. Like he's still pretty, solid. He's almost never I can't really recall like a 4-game stretch when he was out. We've had that with just about every other wide receiver in the top 10. I don't get it. Jackson Smith-Njigba hasn't had one of those windows yet, but he's had a couple more like hiccup games. Of course, maybe it's because he's younger or whatever, but that's where I'm at. Like, I think that dude deserves to get some love on a team that just lost a game. First off, that he put it out there on the field, and it's Amon-Ra St. Brown is a stud.
Absolutely, Bob. And this is another thing. When you brought this to my attention, when we talked about the topics here before the show, I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. He's the guy that's always the best value pick year after year. And like you said, it's right in front of our face. It's almost like a flashing siren, right? It's right in front of our face. And I agree with you. Like, Jamar Chase, fantastic talent. He's more talented than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Justin Jefferson's more talented than Amon-Ra St. Brown. When it comes to captain consistency, the guy you could always rely on, the last 3 seasons, he hasn't been lower than like wide receiver 4. He always does it. The thing is with the guys we mentioned, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, yes, a lot of athleticism and ability there, no doubt about it. It's the sexy flashiness of it, right? Everyone wants the flashy, but man, oh man, it's just the meat and potato, put your stuff in your lunch pail and go to work type of guy. That's what Amon-Ra St. Brown is for our fantasy teams. And like you said, even when it's an off game and ain't a horrible game, it's always usually a guaranteed double-digit floor for Amon-Ra St. Brown. And yet again, he's going to be a league winner this year. You've seen it this week. I had him on a couple rosters going into the playoffs. I mean, he absolutely carried me 41 points here. And I'm so glad you brought him up. And, just value. That's what we talk about, value. We're always looking for value. And like, if I'm in these scenarios, right, where I could draft a Chase or someone like that, and I could move back and take Amon-Ra, do that in your drafts. If you could move back a couple spots, pick up some extra draft capital and startups, grab this guy, no doubt about it. Hey, even if you want to move Chase, and Amon-Ra is one of them pieces in that deal. Because here's the last thing I want to say on Amon-Ra, Bob, and I want to see if you agree with me or not. Like, he is so tough. He is so different. Like, I just don't see him falling off super soon either. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to play till he's 40 or anything like that, right? But like, I think he could be a good solid receiver till he's like 30 to 32 years old. Now, I mean, you're going to see maybe a little bit of a dip, but I think he's the kind of guy that could put up high-end production for a long time. He's tough as nails, and I just really like that about him. He kind of reminds me of Hines Ward, but more talented, right? I mean, like, he just has that. He'll go across the middle. He's gritty. He's tough, but yet he's such a good route runner. He's so fast. He's a sneakily fast and got amazing hands. So, I mean, do you think he's a guy that could play for a little bit longer than just your average receiver?
Yeah, I think barring injury or whatever, obviously, anything stupid, I think he could jump into I mean, he's not 6'4" Larry Fitzgerald, right? But he could easily, he's already kind of playing the slot at a high level. He's super twitchy. He gets wide open. And I don't see why not, because this offense features quick hitting. I mean, as long as he doesn't lose a step. But like right now, he's been completely healthy. He hasn't been outside the top 7 in his first, in his first full years of playing. Cause like, obviously that rookie year, right? They kind of held on to him. They kind of slowed him in, but man, that last, like, what, 4 or 5 games, he looked like a world beater. And then ever since then, he's been 7.334. And I mean, he's 4 right now. He could end up being 1 at the end of the year. Like, there's a lot of teams that are falling off. There's a lot of teams that aren't going to be playing hard. And like Burrow putting up a goose egg today, like not goose egg, but just not getting in the end zone. Like it was such a weird week anyway. But like, I can't see this guy being outside the top 10 for at least the next 5 seasons.
Agreed. And I'm so glad you brought it up. Like, sometimes you don't give people the flowers they deserve enough. He deserves a ton of flowers, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And he's a guy, like you said, Bob, if you want to put him at 1 as far as like what we know we're going to get out of him each and every week, it's almost a guarantee. And I could not debate that whatsoever, just based off consistency and reliability. But okay, Big Culture, going into topic number 3, what are you frying up?
Okay, so if you guys have listened to me on any of the shows, I kind of do the NERB on a 53 method. Basically, like, I don't like to go out and spend high dollar on running backs. Like, it just is what it is. I think running backs an injury prone position, so on and so forth. when you can get guys that come out of nowhere and end up being league winners, it almost always happens every year. There's always somebody that ends up being a stud. So I was talking about, I came across this notable free agent running backs that I just want to highlight. It's probably, I'm not counting the names. It's like 10 names or whatever. Travis Etienne had a monster touchdown game today. Not a whole lot of yards, but he's going to be free. Javonte Williams has looked pretty good since, with health coming along. Yeah, obviously Ty crapped on him his whole time, but it's probably Ty probably crapped on him more because Muss liked him so much, not because of, I mean, he might not have liked him as an evaluation or whatever, but we've talked about this before. Most of these small school guys, we don't have the eye for, right? Him and Hampton both went to the same school, so you get the point. Rico Dowdle, Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker the Turd, probably the last name on this list if I was putting them in order, but Rashad White, Brian Robinson is a plotter, but man, when he gets in there, he plays hard. And it's like, I don't know that he can be a feature guy, but if he's somebody's backup, you can get good fantasy points for an RB2 from the guy if he's in a system. Maybe not so much just a clear backup like he is now with CMC. Bam Knight has looked pretty decent with Arizona, but he's going to be a free agent. Not awesome, but pretty decent. Tyler Algier, I've been hammering this home all the last 5-6 weeks. I think if he gets a lead role on a team that wants to have a punch up the middle guy, Algier is going to be really good. Pacheco, he's angry with the ground, and I'm not a super fan of the guy, but if he's free and he goes to some place that wants to feature him that has a better offensive line and dedicates it to the run, maybe. Who knows? I'm not saying don't overpay for any of these guys, but I'm just knocking out Chris Rodriguez Jr. And then the last one I got on here was Sean Tucker. The few times that he's come in and been the lead back, he's looked pretty damn good with Tampa Bay. So always, always, always. Let me rephrase that. I always, always, always will get my RBs as cheap as humanly possible. I will every once in a while splash on a Gibbs, a Derrick Henry, a Jonathan Taylor, but those are going to be few and far between and almost never on the same team. It'll be something like where I don't like this class coming up. So I'm like, hey, look, I got a 25 first, last year. Like I got a 25 first, I got a wide receiver 2, and I'll give you my 26 first, and I'll get Jonathan Taylor. I'll get rid of maybe not a 25. You know what I'm saying? I would have done that probably even at that point in time, because if it was a late first and what I'm going to assume is going to be another late first in a class I don't like, plus some wide receiver 2 on a team when I'm stacked at wide receiver, then you get the point.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Bob. I mean, I know exactly where you're coming from as far as, like you said, when you want to splurge, them type of trades make sense. And I mean, you got to make them type of moves if you're going to get a name like that. And, I'm with you as far as like some of these free agents. I know you've been preaching Tyler Algier. When we first spoke about that, I thought, yes, that's a very good one. No doubt about it. There's some of them other guys you brought up. Them are names to watch. And as you said, right, I mean, we know one thing about this class. It's a little bit more wide receiver hopeful, right, as far as 2026. I mean, maybe there's a couple quarterbacks in there, but the running backs, you missed the boat. 2025, I mean, I'm not saying like Jeremiah Love's going to be that guy, but like really behind him, there is not much there, right? So, I mean, there isn't anything too special there. So, like, if you want to take a chance on some of these free agents, maybe they move to the right spot. You could find yourself, because I said it this year. I preached it before the season, Rico Dwaddle, and look what happened. You got to be moving on this stuff quickly. You got to put yourself right place, right time. And I'm with you on that. As long as it isn't Kenneth Walker the Turd, you got to be careful there. I'm just kidding. I'll tell you what. I mean, the guy, if he found, I'll say this about Kenneth Walker. If he found himself in the right system where he wasn't designated to be the lead back, maybe in a high-powered offense that worked for him, where he could hit some of these splash plays every once in a while and try to hit some of these explosive plays, that could where he could maybe achieve his best fantasy value. Like we seen Javonte Williams move teams and it worked for him. So I'm never going to write any player completely off. I just have never been a fan of the guy. I just think he's terrible between the tackles. Too overrated when it comes to that. But we'll see. I mean, maybe he'll get on his feet, and I never root against a player, right? He's down on his luck. We'll see what happens. Maybe he finds himself in a good spot. But a lot of them names you mentioned are people to keep an eye on that you could possibly get cheap. And like you said, Tyler Algier, I know you've been preaching it. I like that. Like I always said, that he could end up in Seattle, right? Like if Algier went to Seattle, that would be a perfect scenario and team for him. Like if he found himself in that position, I think that would be tremendous. But okay, Bob, I like the low end running back talk as long with the low end quarterback talk. You're right on par with some of that as far as dynasty moves, I feel. But let's go ahead and talk topic number 4.
All right, you want to go positive or negative first?
We'll just go negative. Let's get it out of the way. We'll say positive for the end of the show.
All right, so cultures that I think are going down. So I guess a break the tough bread first. Detroit is going down. Not a whole lot because we just waxed poetic about Amon-Ra St. Brown, but they're coming off of being in the top 4 or 5 to maybe falling into the 10, 11, 12, 15 range, right? Because like I don't know what it is. Is Campbell too aggressive on offense? Is the defense just not holding up? Are they just not deep enough on defense? Like I tried to talk Shasher off the off the ledge a little bit today because like he's and I was like, man, you got the TJ cynicism with your team or whatever. Like I get it. You guys watch your team so close that you can cherry pick and nitpick every little problem that comes along, but like they do need a little bit more of a pass rush. They did screw up an entire draft when the Terrion Arnold draft class, but like, man, some of these guys are just hurt. It happens. Like they got to reload. Doesn't mean they won't make the playoffs. Doesn't mean that they can't be, dangerous in the playoffs. They're going to have to do it way more on offense than they're going to do it on defense. Hutch is still a stud, but they're trickling, right? They need a stall and maybe a pump up, right? Maybe the draft class helps them out because it's not anything that they really need. They got a QB. They lost Laporta too this year. Like there's a lot of injuries that hit this team or whatever. So Detroit's the first one that I thought I'd just, rip the Band-Aid off. The Ravens, and I'm not trying to just smash our local host or whatever here because now I went from Teixeira to Wiz, but legitimately, like when I've watched Lamar Jackson play. Well, I don't know why Deshaun Jackson came into my head, but when I watch Lamar Jackson play, man, I think he's losing it a little bit. And it is what it is, but then he'll make a wild throw and you're like, okay, maybe he's still in there. But then like, I don't know. It's just the luster's come off of the mighty, mighty Ravens, right? I kind of expected them to run through this division and they're scraping for their playoff lives, right? And it's entirely possible that they end up they play Pittsburgh next week, right? Yep. Yeah. So if they beat Pittsburgh next week, maybe they, bump up into the playoffs, so on and so forth. I don't remember how far they were, where they were at in the playoff picture, but I still think they got an opportunity. So, but like, I don't know. Harbaugh's still there. Is the message getting stagnant, which is what TJ talks about with Tomlin and Harbaugh all the time. I don't know. They re-signed Andrews, which I would have thought maybe they'd have re-signed Likely first. I don't know. I think it was kind of maybe we're just showing our boy a lot of love, or I don't know what the deal is, but their defense has got to get some work. But of course they shut out Cincinnati today, who is going to be my next team I'm going to talk about. That they weren't very high on the culture list. But man, are they coming crashing down a little bit farther, man? Like we talked about this last week. Is Burrow going to hang it up? He might just hang it up. I mean, like, is he going to be the next Andrew Luck? And if you want to talk about a terrible situation, it's like, could Jamar Chase just be like, look, screw it. Get me out of here. I don't care. I seen some stupid speculation rumor about like, would Minnesota trade for Joe Burrow? Well, of course they trade for Joe Burrow. But when I seen the fake package they put together, I'm like, yeah, and Cincinnati will ruin all of that too. But whatever. It's crazy. But like how many more hits can Burrow take and be excited about playing for this team? This is like how when we talked about Jacksonville at the beginning of the year, I are in the play or the not the oh my gosh, the division previews. Like when we talked about that in the summer or whatever, you know, I think Trevor Lawrence has the talent. The thing in a nutshell is like how do you enjoy going to work every day when you're getting killed by the team that's on the other side of the field and you don't have anything to be really excited about to throw the ball to? I can't imagine that that's not getting to be Joe Burrow.
Yeah, let me say
Go
this.
ahead.
Let me say before you go on though. That is something to concern yourself with if you own Joe Burrow as far as fantasy goes, right? Because he is a different cat. Like, I mean, you talked about Andrew Luck, like they're kind of in the same ilk as far as their mindset goes. And like the fact that he suffered so many injuries and it's always like deflating with this team, you better be careful. And if I'm a Cincinnati Bengal fan or a Joe Burrow owner in fantasy football, like this is something that I'm going to be watching and really nervous about. And especially if something happens again next year, like you really got to move on this quick because I have a bad feeling about it, Bob. So I'm glad you brought that up. I just wanted to touch in there on that as well because he is a different cat. I will agree with you on that.
Well, here's the thing. If you're a Bengals fan and you're over the age of like 30, you know this story's happened before. Carson Palmer was a Cincinnati Bengal and was like, I'm tired of playing for you. You guys are terrible. And he got his way out. It, the Raiders were not were a slightly better organization back then, but they're not now. But so what? Like whatever. I digress. But like legitimately, like we've seen this story before. If you're old enough to remember, Carson Palmer did the same thing. The ownership group, it's the Allens, right? They're
No,
not
no, it's the Browns, the Brown
the
family.
Browns, yeah, the Browns. So, like, ironically, the Browns, but, so, yeah, the Brown family's not very good at this. I mean, I hate to be that way, but, like, I heard that when they were trying to make sure they could sign Jamar Chase, they were pulling the TVs out of the lobbies or whatever so they could sell them back. I'm like, "What?" And, like, my son's a huge Bengals fan, so he's, like, telling me the story. I'm like, you're not serious." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "They were legit, like, trying to find ways to cut costs to make sure they could." I'm like, "If you can't sign the guy, then you just don't need to sign the guy. Like, figure it out." But whatever. Tampa Bay. I don't know. This is getting spooky to me because I like Baker Mayfield, but maybe the offensive line's just aging out, something. And again, please don't hear that I'm saying these are like the bottom 5 cultures because there's no way these teams are worse than Vegas, right? They're not worse than the Jets. So don't hear what I'm not saying. But they are sliding down the proverbial culture scale. And it could easily turn around as soon as the draft happens. If these teams do smart things, then I'll be like, okay, maybe this is just a little hiccup. But Tampa Bay was built with those 2 wide receivers, a decent running game, good offensive line, and right now Baker cannot stay upright. He's getting hit left, right, and center. I don't know if it's bad play calling. Baker has seemed to have rose over the fact that he's had like 8 offensive coordinators in his 8 years in the league or whatever. So it's like, but maybe it's coming to roost, man. Maybe he's just like, man, I can't do it anymore, or maybe he's just getting hit too much. Maybe they need to get booted out of the playoffs early so he can get, a break or whatever. I don't know. But right now it's just not looking great for that team. And then the last one I have, because we got the worst news they could possibly get, Kansas City. Like, I think Kansas City has been smoking a whole bunch of their own brand or whatever for too long. I think they just thought they could do it however they wanted for too long. And your offensive line, like you're consistently changing your offensive line. Like they go to the Super Bowl that they lost against Tampa Bay, I believe, where he ran for like 400 yards before crossing the line of scrimmage or whatever, right? And they revamped their whole offensive line. Well, then they turn around and revamp their whole offensive line again. And it's because of things I talk about all the time. The QB's making way too much money and they can't build up the stuff around them. They've paid Chris Jones. They've got a lot of high dollar players on opposite side of the field, and for whatever reason, they don't build the offensive line very strong. They've tried to do it through the draft, and it got Mahomes ACL tour, and it's 9 months. Like if you have the perfect recovery, it's 9 months. That's basically going to be at the beginning of the year, and it's going to take time for him to ramp up. What Mahomes owners were getting this year as far as the rushing, that's probably going to be kicked to the butt. You know what I mean? At least for the first month and a half next year. So that's my 5 downers. I don't know, man. They got to do something. And it's like, our Rashid Rice shares next year. You know what I mean? Are we going to be excited about that at the beginning of the year? Travis Kelce's a free agent. I don't know if he resigns or not. Does he come back for one more year because of the stank that's got left on him? You know what I mean? Does he want to try and ride out a champion, or just be like, this team doesn't have enough money, let's just walk or whatever. I
I
don't know,
think
but
I think
go
he's
ahead.
done. I think he's done, Bob. I think Travis Kelce will be done after this year, because how would you want to come back missing the playoffs this year? Then you don't have Patrick Mahomes. You're already getting older, losing a step. He's having the wedding, the marriage thing to Taylor Swift. We know about that. Like, I mean, so it's like, so long, partner. I think this is going to be done. If I had to like bet on it right now, I'd say 80% he's probably going to be wrapping up and finishing with the Chiefs. And this team's going to look totally different. But like you said, and then like the Xavier Worthy pick, like I knew, right? Like I mean, when the guy runs fast, I mean, look, if you want him for track or something like that, that's great. But can he play football? Right? Is he an elite wide receiver? Like, they had an opportunity to do something else, and I'm like you, they really botched this. I mean, the Tooney trade, or when they got rid of him to Chicago, mistake. I mean, we've seen their offensive line get mauled against the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and what they do, they just went back and made it worse, right? So a lot of dumb moves. Now your quarterback's hurt. Next year's a throwaway. Now, as far as Rashee Rice goes, I will say this. I think that if I had to have it happen on any team, I think Andy Reid and the system is going to be good enough to probably still elevate him to be a solid player. But his ceiling's definitely capped. I mean, it's not going to be what it was with Mahomes. I mean, it just
No.
isn't. But I don't think it will be completely in the dumpster. So that's one okay thing. But Bob, I like those 5 teams you mentioned. Like you said, it's not like we're going to give up on these teams that we feel terrible about it, but it's just one of them things, like, you got to watch. And that's what you're saying, right? Like, they got to fix this. There's opportunities to fix it, but you got to be a little careful. You don't want to get stuck holding the bag with some of these offenses. And I can agree with you. At Sports Zone 76 is, hi, everyone. Hey, Sports Zone. Happy to have you with us tonight. Thank you for tuning in to the Culture Shock with me and Bob. Bob, go ahead and give us your final thing for tonight's show.
Well, let's talk about 5 cultures I think are on the rise. And a lot of these are teams that you probably would not hear me talk about positively in most situations. So I'm going to try and go from the teams I've been the most positive on to the teams I've been the most negative on, from the bottom to the top. If I said that right, or top to bottom, whatever. So the Chargers, I actually think they're coming up a little bit. Now, we talked about it the other day. You guys mentioned fraudulent. I mentioned snake bitten. They're still playing tough enough to actually be in this mix. Now, they just knocked the Chiefs out of the playoffs. So maybe I've got a little bit of rose colored glasses because something like that happened. But I also think that this team's playing adequately enough on offense, well enough on defense, to at least still be a competitive team. Then, if they get their offensive line healthy, and it can stay healthy, but this is a notoriously, historically snake bitten franchise. So don't hear what I'm not saying. They may be moving up from like 15 to like 10, whatever. They're in the middle of the pack. They're still going to be in the middle of the pack. I just think they're coming up a little bit. They have the right QB, I think. I think they got the right head coach. They still want to run the ball effectively. They still want to play good defense. I think if the offensive line gets straight, it could be a little bit better. Houston, I'm shocked. The offensive line is garbage still, and they're managing to play well enough around it. Awesome. And I mean, like, Woody Marks does okay today. They don't have a Chubb. They got Nico Collins, and Nico Collins is playing really well. And I think Stroud is playing above what he did last year. So that's fantastic. And the defense is amazing. led by D'Amico Ryans and a defensive head coach. You would hope the defense is pretty good. So again, another team that's moving, incrementally up in the middle of the pack. The Jacksonville Jaguars. I generally talk. This is probably not the place for them in my list of 3 here, but whatever. I'm going to go ahead and break because of Houston, Jacksonville. I usually tear this team apart, and I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you, like we talked about this beforehand. I'm not going to tell you they got a plan, but I think they got an outline for a plan, because I still don't know what you're doing with Travis Hunter. I still don't know what you're going to do with BTJ. He throws 5 touchdowns today, runs in another one. It's Trevor Lawrence is beginning to look like the number 1 pick people expected him to be. Is it because he's getting protection? Is it because they're effectively running line? I believe, TJ brought it up, it's Liam Cohen. It's like, I think it's a head coach. Maybe they finally got the right guy. We're not suffering through who was the Coughlin. We're not suffering through Coughlin. Although his teams weren't bad, so I don't want to throw too much shade at Todd Coughlin, but whatever. The offense just
I think you're thinking of Jack Del Rio, Bob. I think that's
Oh, yeah, Del Rio was terrible. That's right. Coughlin was okay. But yeah, like Del Rio was terrible, and it's not Urban Meyer. That was such a stupid hire. Even at the time, I'm like, it's just any team anymore that hires a college head coach and expects. I mean, Nick Saban couldn't do it, people. If Nick Saban can't do it, nobody from college is going to come up here and the very first year get it right. They just can't do it. They need multiple years to adjust to money over just prestige of a college. You know what I mean? Whatever. So yes, the Jacksonville Jaguars are.
Bob, let me add this. And I think you agree with me, though. If they would have not made that trade with the Cleveland Browns, they would be looking so much better right now. Like, that was the only thing ever since they hired Liam Cohen that was like so stupid, because you bring in Jacoby Myers. Great move. You got him from nothing from Vegas. Brian Thomas is still Brian Thomas. ETN, like you said. But Liam Cohen, that's the last thing I want to talk about, because you and I did talk about this pre-show. Dave Canales, Liam Cohen. And, maybe this is what's kind of hindering Tampa Bay a little bit, too. You lose 2 guys of that quality, right, going out. That could hurt, too. So we talked about them coming on the downward slide and these other 2 teams kind of going upward a little bit, So, I mean, I agree with you on that with Liam Cohen, but I'll let you finish out. I just wanted to add that because I do think that's important.
No. I know. I get it. You're absolutely right. The one thing I want to add to that is let's say that I'm going to only disagree with you slightly. I do agree completely, but here's a scenario for you. They make that trade and they just use Travis Hunter as a cornerback.
Right. Okay, I'll give you that.
That would have been fine. If they'd have just used him as a wide receiver, making the trade, yes, I think it's dumb to pay the extra capital. I really want to do a deep dive at one point in time. Every time I've seen a team move up, and especially into the top 5, it almost always is terrible. There's very few that I can think of where somebody moved up into the top 5 where it's really worked out. Right. Whatever. It generally takes a long time, and they didn't need to move up so quick. Whatever. I digress. But like, yes, if they'd have stayed at 5 and maybe taken a different player or whatever, but I don't if you really want the guy, you don't a guy at 5 could bust just like a guy at 2 can bust. You pay the extra to do it. We got the impression they moved up to get 2 guys for the price of 1, and I don't know. This obviously the book's still out, but they're playing really well without a number 2 pick. Like, you would think that would have been something you could have added really well to your team with what it is. And I don't know, I forget really what they gave up, but it was absolute. I don't know. It's a bad move, and maybe they've remedied that just by playing better. I don't know. New Orleans, that maybe they got somebody in Shuck. I don't know. But first off, I've talked about this before. The New Orleans Saints have never drafted, or the last time they drafted a QB in the first round was Archie Manning. They did not draft Shuck in the first round. They may have found their quarterback because that's just how they do business. Either they sign Drew Brees or they bring somebody in that's always been a late draft pick. They're playing pretty well. They're making Devon Vele look pretty decent. And again, this is a team that I would have probably had in the bottom 5 to 8. So, like, when I say they're moving up, I don't want to say they're like jumping into the top 10, but they're certainly moving. They're sniffing the top of they're sniffing fresh air off the bottom of the garbage heap. You know what I'm saying? They're still in the garbage pile.
They might be coming from 32 to like 20, right? Like somewhere in that range. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Up for fresh air. You know what I'm saying? They're coming out of the poop and getting fresh air. So, like, I don't want to wax too, but maybe who did they bring in to be the defensive coordinator? I forget. Or did they fire that guy?
Huh? The Saints? Was it who are we talking?
The defensive coordinator for the Saints. I thought it was what? Where did he? No, Eberflus went to
the Cowboys.
The Cowboys. So they're still looking terrible. But I was thinking Dennis Allen he's the defensive coordinator around Chicago.
Brandon Staley.
Okay, so he was the guy that was the defensive coordinator, turned head coach in LA and was not a good head coach, but he was a pretty good defensive coordinator. Okay. But so maybe they got that guy in place. And then of course, Kellen
Moore.
Yeah, well, I was thinking the quarterback that got whatever, the one that sucks for Minnesota, Kellen
Clemens.
Yeah. I can't get names. I'm bad with names. But yeah, so maybe they got their head coach. Maybe they got their defensive coordinator. Now they just need to build it up. Get out of some of that salary cap hell they're in. And that's all right. So I saved this one for last. The Chicago Bears. Just maybe they have something working. I still don't believe in Caleb. I'm not excited about Caleb's prospects as a fantasy asset. He may be a capable NFL quarterback, which is better than I would have actually thought, because at first it's like, this guy's still holding on to the ball too long. He's still trying to play hero. Although I did see that touchdown pass to Moore today. He had no reason to throw that pass. That was so covered. If he was playing any capable team, it's probably picked. You guys can wax poetic about him all you want. I'm looking at that and I'm like, it's a good thing he played the Cleveland Browns this week, because that would have got picked by just about any other team with a halfway decent secondary. But you got to beat the teams that you should beat. You got to, I'm not going to glaze. I'm not going to go to the TJ's Donut Shop and glaze Caleb Williams up. But maybe he's a capable NFL quarterback. Maybe. It remains to be seen. Again, this is a team that I probably would have had in the 15 to 20 range. Maybe they're going to be 11 to 15 by the time it's all said and done. But they're running the football. They're actually doing what they need to do. That's what I've said from the beginning of the offseason till now. They need to run the football and play good defense. And they're doing that. Now, mind you, most of the teams they're beating are actually dog water. When their schedule gets tougher, we'll really see what this team's made of. Can they beat Green Bay twice? Or once, because they didn't beat Green Bay the last time. So Can they beat Green Bay one of these 2 times? You know what I mean? Like, do they have a game with Detroit left on the schedule?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. They got Detroit and Green Bay remaining. Did
they beat Green Bay or did they beat Detroit the first time?
No, they did not.
So can they beat Detroit once? This is where I'm at with this team. It's still a tough division. And yes, they are the top of the division right now. But are they the class of the division? They have never been, well, maybe since 1985. They haven't been for a long time. Will they be anytime soon? I don't know. But I have to say, they definitely are better than I've expected them to be by quite a bit, honestly.
And that's what I love about you, Bob. You're willing to throw flowers when they are deserve to be given. But you're right as far as Caleb Williams goes, right? But like, I think Wiz said it in the chat, like it is a step in the right direction from last year, what we've seen. Even you said it, him not holding on to the ball too long in a lot of these instances. But you have said it. This is Chicago. Let's play defense. Let's run the ball. Let Caleb make the throws he only has to make to try to help us win. But you are correct in saying with the Lions and the Packers, right? This is a big grow up moment for the Bears here. Can they grow up? Can they beat one of these two teams? They absolutely need to. And next year, right? Because you're right. The schedule is going to get harder. You're not going to have as many cupcakes next year when you make the playoffs. And it's looking like the Bears will make it, barring an epic collapse. But a big win today off a loss, that's what you want to see. Like the old Bears would have lost this game, or they would have found a way to lose or let the other team hang around like Cleveland when they had no business to. So it was kind of nice to see them take care of that business. Hopefully they continue to run the ball, and we'll see. We'll see. You're right, Bob. A lot more growing to do, but with Ben Johnson, they made the right hire, I feel, and they are starting to do it the right way. We'll see where it goes from there. But okay, Bob, to close out the show, I know you want to open up a pack of cards for everybody. What do you have for us tonight?
Well, my wife, like I said, my wife, and she let me buy another box. So I don't know if I'll open all them, but so Ramondre Stevenson.
Ooh, okay. I like them cards too.
I think they look good. And my boy told me that there's on some of the rookies there's a V on the back. That means there's a variant. I might have to see if I can pawn this off on old Slim Shady.
Oh, Ashton Jenny right there. Okay. Yeah. Rookie card.
Yep. And then they said there's I forget what they called this, I don't know if it's purple back or something like that, but it's ATN and it's a purple instead of the silver.
That's so sharp looking.
I think they look really nice. Now, whether they're worth anything or not is a different story. Bayshell Tootin, that's your boy.
There we go. Touchdown scorer today. Hopefully we see a little bit more from him. Maybe as a good handcuff behind ETN if the Jags do sign him.
Jettis.
That's always a good one to get. Just a nice player to have.
Yeah. And then Leonard Williams, another Slim boy.
There you go, Slim. It's like a Slim pack opening tonight. He's here with us in spirit. You know, Bob, last thing I want to say about Slim, he pulled the Kyle Pitts second chance corner on me on the Inner Circle League. He thought he had me with his 45-point effort from Kyle Pitts, but my team said, no, we got to avenge TJ today. We got to come back just because Kyle Pitts played Tampa Bay. We can't let this happen. And they were able to get me the win.
Go ahead.
They were able to get me the win.
You know that Kyle Pitts is going to be talking about that game to his grandkids and the people in the retirement home when he gets there. One day I scored 3 touchdowns. Oh, really? What'd you do that? How'd you do that, old man? Because you know you're not a tight end. It was a perfect storm for Pitts. First off, the wide receiver one's out. That's the position he probably needs to be playing anyway. Tyke Smith's out for Tampa Bay, who's probably their best defender in that position or whatever against him. And yeah, I knew he'd get over on the yards. I bet it. And I won money. I was like, okay, yeah. But like,
let me say this. If you listen to the deep dive and watched Big Bob's Blackboard, he told you, is Kyle Pitts played Tampa Bay? If it's a yes, then you start him. If it's a no, then you don't. I love it, Bob. But another great episode. What a great episode here tonight, Bob. Thank you for that. A lot of great insight, talking some players, some teams here. A lot of good stuff to digest. We're getting so close to the Dynasty offseason, guys. We got a lot of great stuff lined up for you. We got Dynasty DNA Deep Dive. We have the Triple Threat Podcast. We have From Whistle to Whistle. A couple other shows. Maybe we'll be sprinkling in. More to come on that. We'll be breaking down the 2026 draft class. Mock drafts, buys and sells, talking free agency, hypotheticals, all kinds of that great stuff to try to help build you a winner this offseason. And, of course, we'll be with you every step of the way to close out the Dynasty playoffs for 2025 right up until the new year. But if you are listening on Spotify, Apple Pod, Stitcher, Amazon, any of the big podcasting platforms and you haven't yet, please follow and 5-star the show. It greatly helps, and we so appreciate it. If you're watching The Culture Shock on YouTube for the first time and you're enjoying yourself, please like and subscribe on YouTube. We'd love to have you over here. And we got all kinds of great new content coming out on YouTube as well this offseason. Very beneficial stuff, entertaining, all kinds of great things there. Follow us on Twitter at DynastyDNA_. Listen, I know I speak for the cultured one. and everyone here at the Dynasty DNA Network when I say, we hope you guys enjoy what's left of your weekend, get a good start off to your week. I know Mondays are no fun, but maybe Bob will put a smile on your face. But until then, good luck in all your remaining games, and we will see you all on the next episode